My name is John Brinton. I'm Chief Revenue Officer here at Crescendo, and I want to welcome you to the Secrets of the Fastest Growing. It's a series where we sit down with founders, executives, innovators in the technology and communications industry who are driving real growth. And for if you don't know me, I'm Chief Revenue Officer at Crescendo, like said, and Crescendo is the home of the NetSapiens platform. For our audience, the NetSapiens platform for service providers is actually the fastest growing global platform for unified communications as a service with over 7.5 million users globally. And in this series, we explore the stories behind the companies powered by the NetSapiens platform and the lessons that they've learned along the way. And I'm really excited today to have as my guest Brian Shepik. He's the Chief Revenue Officer of BCM1. So, welcome, Brian. And why don't you, as you say hello to our audience today, why don't you just take a couple minutes and tell us a little bit about yourself and BCM1 and welcome to the series. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Appreciate you having me. So BCM1 is a company that most people don't know that name. They know the brands within our company. So they might know the brand Pure IP. They might know the brand SkySwitch, which is primarily what we'll be talking about today. They might know Core Dial or Flow Route or SIP Trunk or a variety of others. We've done about 10 acquisitions since 2019. And most of those are now several years in the rear view. So we're at that more interesting stage where we're beyond the do no harm, don't break it stage that when you first do an acquisition, and now we're into the integration and integrated stage for most of those. And so that brings together more depth to our various centers of excellence, be it in sales or operations or development. So yeah, that's who we are.
That's great. And BCM1 is a great brand. Like you said, they've done quite a few acquisitions. You guys have a pretty large business here in the US and in Europe as well across the acquisition. So that's something that's really interesting. I know today's topic really because SkySwitch is one of our most successful partners, is really focused on that topic. But, I appreciate the breadth of the company you've come into. So what are, within the SkySwitch portfolio, tell me what are some of the primary markets, customers that you serve? Who is the audience that you're targeting?
Sure. So a little more broadly, BCM targets a variety of audiences. So we have a lot of large enterprise customers, 10,000-ish, that
Hmm.
brands people would know, many sites, many countries, and that's where we really serve the most complex customers. Our white label business, which is where SkySwitch fits, is really our path to reach the small and medium businesses that are out there. Everything we do is B2B. We don't focus on residential service. But whereas the Pure IP tends to be the larger enterprises, more complicated, the SkySwitch platform is goes to market through a large variety of partners, more than 1,500 of them, and they each serve their various constituents, typically made up primarily of small and medium businesses, um, mostly in the US. And, they all bring a high touch service capability along with the platform. So they're serving their local. Most of them are MSPs who got
Hmm.
started. They could come from a variety of areas. They
Right.
may have been a PBX dealer focused on the voice world. They may have been a desktop support, local IT support kind of company, and they've evolved into more of an MSP and then included voice along the way. There's a lot of different backgrounds from these companies, but these partners then in turn help us reach more than 100,000 end user businesses that we serve through that segment. And then we have more of a self-service leg of our business in a different segment that is really where it could be enterprises. More often, it's a solution provider. Might also be
Hmm.
a former PBX dealer or a current PBX dealer, someone like that, who's bundling our SIP trunks and our phone capabilities with whatever their complementary solution is. And so There's another 40,000 or so customers there, mostly brought to us via 1,000 or so dealers and partners.
Wow, that's interesting. It's pretty broad base. So if you think about it, it's probably within SkySwitch, especially a big horizontal offering with lots of different technology providers that are your partners. But within each of those companies, some of them are probably pretty vertically focused. So you've got partners that are like they go after a certain vertical. That's where they get their customers. Is that what it looks like?
Absolutely. Last week on Thursday and Friday, I was with three different partners in the Boston area. One of them focused almost exclusively on school districts and municipal entities. Another one focused almost exclusively on retail and in fast casual restaurant retail. Another one was more of a across the board, a variety of verticals, no particular focus. So yeah, no two partners the same.
So the challenge for obviously for your company is to have an offering that kind of fits the needs of the people in all of those verticals. So you're out a lot with your partners, just like you just told us about. What are some of the trends and things that you're seeing that are of peak interest to them, and what are the things you're seeing that are helping them be successful in the market today?
Again, it helps to segment it a little bit. I would say in the small and medium business segments, the AI tsunami is
Hmm.
still in front of us. If you're a large enterprise, you have lots of technical advice coming at you. You have consulting companies like an Accenture or an IBM who want to help you harness AI. You have your data lakes and your data vendors, data technology vendors. You have your networking vendors, all offering to help you. If you're in the small and medium business category, you have less of those folks to lean on. But I think it's clear that the value of some of these technologies, in particular the agentic capability of AI, is going to bring some value to even the smaller businesses. So as a
Hmm.
result, a lot of our partners are getting ready for that. They're getting those questions now, and almost wherever I travel, it's if it's not topic one, it's certainly in the top three of, tell
Right,
us tell us about how we're going to participate there. So it's you know it's a nice opportunity to more significantly enhance the value of the offering than
right.
some of these smaller sort of incremental features, right? This can be quite powerful and a significant savings opportunity for the end users and
Sure.
revenue opportunity for our partners.
Yeah, that's great. That's pretty exciting. And obviously, your challenge is to make the portfolio match that. Now, switch gears on you a little bit because you just joined BCM1 about 6 months ago. So, newer there in the CR role, but extensive experience. I want to find out a little bit more about that. What was it that was especially intriguing to you about this opportunity of the choices that you had to get involved and join this organization?
Yeah, it was a few different things. The people is probably where it began. This is a company that's had a very strong culture, started by its founders and continued, 30 plus years now. Very personal connections within the employee fabric. Even with all of these acquisitions, they've sought similar like-minded entrepreneurs to
Hmm.
join, and many of them are still present with us. So the people is certainly where it began.
Sure.
I think the breadth of, some of my industry colleagues, did say, I'm a little surprised to see you focusing back on a more voice-centric, telecom-centric company. And my belief again is that I think voice is coming back actually. I had a lot of my previous career was in contact center, and we spent, better part of 2 decades working to bring multi-channel, omni-channel solutions to
Hmm.
businesses so they could serve their customers in a variety of channels. Um, but I still think the preferred interface for most people is voice. I mean, there's a reason why we pick up our remote control in our living room and talk to it, right? Because we can now. And
Hmm.
it's just easier. And
Right.
kind of the brain is just wired to communicate that way. And so as opposed to, going back to a computer screen and typing, right? Or getting on a phone and typing. So I think some of the voice AI technology and some of the other things that are happening are bringing voice back front and center as a preferred interface. And now that people can actually mine all those calls with recording and transcription and insights and keyword analysis and sentiment analysis and all those types of things, I think the businesses will steer back in that direction some. That's not to say they're going to turn down the other channels, but I think they're putting a lot of attention and energy. It's reinvigorating the voice channel.
Sure. Yeah, there was a term that came to me. I was being interviewed at a conference in Europe, and maybe it was being in Europe kind of made me feel a little bit more traditional. But the term that came to mind for me is it's really I think it's the renaissance of voice, right? So it's like
Exactly.
with the power that if you look at, what's been done, sure, people like SMS interaction, chat interactions, things like that. But I think people have come back to that personal type of interaction. But most importantly, I agree with you. It's the conversational analytics and intelligence that comes out of, the AI engines have mined the web for all of the, information that they can collect. But, taking that and same concept and applying it to a conversation like we're having, which is where our solutions play because, we are the voice providers for organizations where their employees are talking to their customers. That is where there's a lot of, meaningful insight. So I understand that attraction because it's something that, I've observed as well. I think it's one of the most exciting times in our business.
Yeah, I think the other thing that brought me to BCM is it's that size that I've come to prefer over the years. I've worked for some really large companies, some really small startup companies that I was involved in starting myself. And when you're real small, you're very innovative, you have great ideas, and you can bring out great products, but the market impact is a little harder to
Sure.
execute. When you're really large, you're not so nimble anymore. And so you have great market clout, but the impact is slowed because of the innovation pace gets slowed. That middle size seems to be the sweet spot for me and where I can bring the most value and I think where companies can bring the most value to the market. So
Sure.
I think we're in that sweet spot.
You have an interesting footnote in your background, which is one of the things that's most intriguing for a career path to a chief revenue officer. You spent a fair amount of time on a metal tube underwater. How do you go
Yes.
from being in the submarine crew to the roles that you've taken on over your career?
Yeah, so I was a submarine officer after college, and at the time, I certainly didn't know that I was going to be going into telecommunications. Um,
Sure.
After a few years of that, more than a few, I wanted to get married, and being
Hmm.
away for long stretches underwater is not so conducive. So I decided to get out, and my fiance at the time was a government employee and wanted to work in Washington. And so I took a very strategic approach, studied all the industries, and said, um, I want whatever job is closest to Washington because that's where she wanted to be, Washington, D.C. So at the time, I was fortunate enough that that job came about as a telecom test and measurement company based near D.C. And so I'd love to tell you that I made this, brilliant strategic move into the industry because I saw how
Hmm.
great it was going to be for the next 30 years. But that's not the case. I chose it because of its geographic proximity, and it was very fortunate of me because it was a great company and they gave us fantastic training. And um, I was in a sales position, but had a chance to move up pretty quickly. And I was leveraging the security clearance that I had from
Hmm.
my time in the Navy and my time as a communications officer on the submarine. So that was kind of the transition, and then I sort of evolved to more of the commercial side of the industry over the years.
Right. Well, you probably also have transference of skills from being in the submarine, in an officer role there, as it's learning to work well with others consistently, right? In, confined environment, which is really, you think about us with our relationships with our employees and partners and things like that. There's a fair amount of transference of skill there.
It's great team building and leadership training, no doubt, and you certainly learn to operate, to recognize operating constraints. And
Right.
so, yeah, that continues to serve me to this day.
Right, that's great. So what are some of the, as we look at our industry, you talked on a little bit. What are some of the biggest changes that, because you've been through the premise communications companies, like you said, you had startups. What are some of the biggest communications or changes that you've seen? And besides AI, any other things that you're kind of excited about the future?
There's still a lot going on. I mean, excuse me, wireless networking capabilities continue to advance, each generation more and more impressively, not just in the cellular networks, but even in the enterprise networks with what's happening with Wi-Fi. And what that does is it leads to device flexibility for users, not just human users, but, a lot of machines, are connected now. And so, the it creates a lot of opportunity for innovation. So I think that's a trend that's been a big part of my career and been going on now for a bit more than 30 years. The At the same time, I see software versus
Mhm.
hardware. And, that trend continues, software-defined networking, but just software in general, and the myriad of software companies that have proliferated as a result. I'm fascinated by the challenge that we have, which is so many great systems out there in each vertical to interface with, right? And getting those
Sure.
integrations done and having an API engine and an integration capacity that allows our partners to keep up, right? So whichever vertical they're focused in, there's 4 or 5 vertical industry specific software platforms that are leading the market, and you want to allow them to integrate with those um, to bring the most value in terms of applications to the end customer. So that's going to continue. I think it takes a lot of flexibility, and we spend a lot of our energy on that. I
Mhm.
think alongside the device proliferation is security. We have the threats continue to evolve, and the importance of putting time and energy into combating those threats and hardening the network and hardening the platforms from a security standpoint is critical. But I think maybe the most relevant one to the SkySwitch business is just this idea of outsourcing and managed services. There was a time when people would outsource, a contact center to a BPO, and
Hmm.
and that was
Sure.
mostly about, the labor pool to staff that contact center. But now you see, companies outsourcing much of IT, and allowing them to
Right.
focus on their core business. And that's created a level of intimacy in my partner community because they are largely MSPs, and that's been
Sure.
to their benefit. But that level of intimacy that they achieve, and sometimes it manifests as verticals focus. Other times it's just a real white glove, high touch, local presence that's so different than what you get from a large telecom operator. That people really like the fact that that same person who helped me install my printer in the office 20 years ago is still around and now helping me anticipate how to harness AI, and along the way has taken over my voice network and made that much more reliable and moved it to the cloud. And and I can call him and I'll get a call back same day if I don't get him live on his cell phone. That
Right.
kind of intimacy from those regional MSPs is quite powerful. And we tap into that as much as we can, try to enable them to bring the next round of services
Right.
to their clients.
Yeah, I'm always amazed because with all the technology advancement in our industry, I agree with you. I mean, it's people still buy from people, and it's that trusted advisor approach. I think that is especially indicative of your partner community, where they do own, the deep relationships with their customers, and clearly you understand your role is to give them additional lines of business or technology tools, the SkySwitch solution that they could bring into their portfolio, and then offer to customers. So part of that's built around making it easy for them to add a white label offering like SkySwitch. So tell me a little bit about what you guys do to enable your partners to make it easy for them and help them be successful.
Excuse me. Sorry about the cough.
Sure.
Sure. A lot of it is the surround of
Hmm.
that NetSapiens platform. So it's billing capability, regulatory compliance and filing capability, and all the taxation that comes from the fact that um, the taxation model is different state by state, county by county, sometimes even parish by parish, right? And so
Sure.
giving them the capability to navigate all that within the platform is one area. We talked about AI. Another is observability. Being able to quickly assess when one of their customer calls whether the problem is with their platform, with their network, or perhaps with a device on site. And so having the tools to kind of recognize those things, maybe even before that phone call comes, we're putting a lot of our
Hmm.
energy into that. I think the some of the adjacent applications, allowing people to have a mobile client, have a desktop client besides just hard phones, uh,
Hmm.
has been another part of the effort. But there's probably half a dozen other areas where it's just that surround of the platform beyond just the voice itself, to enable their whole business and
Sure.
again, hopefully provide some incremental applications they can deliver.
Yeah, and that's a probably a good distinction that some of our audience doesn't recognize is that in our case with the NetSapiens platform, I tell people we're more of an operating system. We're the the UCAS engine inside and in the operating system or the NVIDIA inside to help drive your offer with what you do with SkySwitch. But that's all we do is the UCAS part. And what you guys have done, I think, uniquely compared to many of our partners because of your focus on this white label audience, is you have really leveraged our APIs that are built into the platform to build that entire service layer that you were just talking about. So whether it's the billing, the support engines, the security, kind of predictive analytics, that's a key differentiation for people to understand is that we're about empowering service providers, but then you're about empowering technology consultants with everything else they need on top of the platform, right? So there's a significant amount of development on your part to take what we give you and present it in a way that kind of meets the need of the audience that you guys are serving.
That's exactly our intent is to make it easy for them, kind of provide a complete solution beyond just the UCAS platform itself or the hosted PBX platform itself, to enable a whole business. And again,
Mhm.
if they're going to be the trusted advisor, things need to go really smoothly and consistently and seamlessly. And
Right,
we like them to focus on their high touch, local, and sales and service elements, right? And
right.
we'll take care of the technology back end for them.
Sure. Now on SkySwitch, a little deeper, the acquisition occurred well before you joined the business, but I know you were somebody who's always done your homework. What do you think made it especially attractive as an acquisition target for BCM1, and how does it kind of fit in the overall strategy?
Well, again, it starts with the people. I mean, it was a great team, and the vast majority of that team is with us and thriving and leading us further in this white label business that we have. Even now, leading some of these different centers of excellence within the support and development organizations that I was referring to across not just the SkySwitch brand, but our whole portfolio. Um, I think that they were very innovative. I mean, that's the main thing that they did. They were not afraid to tackle any problem, and so um, there's lots of places where they could have drawn a boundary and said that's outside the scope, but that wasn't their nature, and they were constantly looking to kind of improve on things and make things better, whether that was reliability, functionality, or back office capabilities, just to make it easier and smoother to operate. So it's been an excellent acquisition. We have some natural synergies with our other businesses. There are, as I mentioned earlier, we refer to some of our like SIP trunk and flow route customers. A lot of those are bundling a solution with perhaps a PBX that they're selling for one of the PBX
Hmm.
vendors. And so there's sort of a natural evolution to go from being a PBX dealer to being a UCaaS provider enabled by SkySwitch. And so we
Right.
created a path with that acquisition for a lot of those, there's thousands of dealers that
Hmm.
work with us on the zip trunk and flow route side that now have a path to go be put some, put these customers on their, they've built a relationship as
Great.
a VAR effectively with for the PBX, but they've come to know these customers intimately and know their voice practices. And now when it's time to move to the cloud, it's quite natural to do that with that same partner who's now bringing a SkySwitch enabled platform to market.
Sure. Well, I think the interesting thing, especially for that audience too, is you're helping them build additional value in their business because what, is it's instead of the kind of more the one-time revenue professional services, support model of a traditional PBX vendor, you guys are really helping them drive recurring revenue in their business because you're giving them all the tools to do that. And if it's significant recurring revenue, that is valued in a business valuation scenario, which, everybody that starts a business, you'd like to think that they'll stay in the family forever. But reality is, at some point in time, there's a transition in ownership. I think one of the benefits you deliver to some of those traditional VARs and resellers is that ability to build additional value in their business. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, that's what we're about. We have an advisory committee within our partner community for SkySwitch. We just had a meeting with them. There's about 10 partners there, and it's amazing the array of ideas that come from that group. These are very entrepreneurial people, and not just the ones who sit on our advisory committee, but even the long tail of partners that we have. They're
Hmm.
by nature entrepreneurial folks. They're problem solvers. They have unique perspectives on the market, and they're great. They're a great source of innovation ideas for us. So again, you have that can-do attitude from the development team. It's a great fit.
Right. That's great. So you've got a structured forum where those key partners, who I'm sure are influenced by others, can spend quality time with your management team and kind of give them the feedback and direction to help guide what you're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's great. So, what are some of the characteristics? I know it's you talked about they're in all kinds of verticals, but kind of that you see, separate some of your more successful partners, or what are some of the things that you think that they do that's just part of the daily do within their business that's maybe different from others? Any insights there?
Yeah, I would say that um, what separates the consistently fast growers
Hmm.
from the um, more moderate growth is the sales engine. So again, we're largely handling the technology element of at least of the voice practice
Sure.
for these partners, and some of them have really, almost all of them have got fantastic local service capabilities, but the sales acumen is a much bigger range. And I say acumen, it's not just that, it's the investment, Some
Hmm.
some you have the founder is still the main salesperson. And
Sure.
that works really well because it's very personal and there's a high level of trust with those customers that founder has worked with often for decades. But the ones who have been able to take that recipe and extend it to a bigger sales team, hire that second, third, fourth, 10th, 15th salesperson, obviously just create a bigger go-to-market engine. And so that's one of the biggest things. And we put a lot of our energy into helping the sales and marketing engine for our partners. Um, a lot of the messaging is common, and they just need to apply their own brand and their own um, geography and local elements to it. But the skin and the core of the messaging and the documentation is coming from us. And so we create um, an online library of these types of assets for people
Hmm.
to use, whether it's a social media post or a direct mailer or a door hanger or whatever it is that they're going to use to go out and market their services. We join them when they have large opportunities, right? If and large is sort of up to them to decide to define, but
Right.
it's not uncommon that someone who's got 150 customers, average size 10 or 15 seats, all of a sudden has a 150 seat opportunity, they might ask for some help, and of course we're right behind them to authenticate the platform and its capabilities, and
Right.
answer any nuanced questions from a technology side.
That's cool. So actually, you guys, I wasn't aware that you do have the kind of the full, besides the UCAS engine and the compliance and the billing and the other things, you've got a full, I guess, white label content for marketing to help them just easily put their brand on it, be able to customize it, social media, it's interesting. So all of that kind of comes in the package with the Sky Switch relationship also.
It does. It does. And there's so many different flavors of marketing activities now, but um, we also like to benchmark for our partners, right? We'll say,
Hmm.
the average partner is seeing this percentage adoption of this feature. Maybe it's the mobile client, maybe it's the sentiment analysis or the call recording and transcription. And you're seeing much less than the average. What can we do to help
Sure.
you make that available to your customers? And so it's quite natural for the folks on my team who manage these partners, to do kind of an inventory of how that partner's traffic profile looks and customer profile looks compared to, say, a benchmark, and brainstorm how to do even better.
Right. Right. And then the people resources, you've got a whole team out there supporting them, helping them to get off the ground when they start with you. You said support them in large opportunities. So that's a big investment on your part too.
We do. It's like I said, most of that Sky Switch team is with us, and the Cordell team before that. So it's a good sized group that supports these customers. There's a lot of them. So
Right. Good. Well, that's a big investment in resources in today's world. So we see a lot of people, cutting back or scaling down or offshoring a lot of the resources. It's great to know that you've got the people that actually can go out with them to meet with customers if needed, help them get their sea legs under them, so to speak, to spin a
a
pun
lot
off
of them
your little
are quite
career.
tenured. A lot of the team is quite
Right.
tenured. So they've built this relationship and this trust. I mean, it's one of the actually most impressive things in my 6 months on board is seeing the tenure of the team and the length of the duration and durability of the
Hmm.
relationships. And, they're old friends sometimes. These
Right.
partners have been with us 10, 15 years.
Yeah, well, that's great. So just kind of, switching back a little bit because the SkySwitch business is built on top of the NetSapiens platform. What do you think in your world has made the platform, the NetSapiens platform, such a strong foundation for growth?
Well, I think we're one of the earlier adopters. I don't know. I'm not the best historian. You probably could tell me, but so I think just the time together is probably
Right,
more than many others. Um, Again, we invested heavily, and we kind of had a think out of the box mindset, maybe, as opposed to just adopting a platform and putting our skin on it. It was much more innovation centric to figure out how to do things, and maybe even do them a little bit differently sometimes, in order to bring the best solution out. So the platform is very stable, and that's sort of table stakes in our industry, and it surprises me
yes,
sometimes. Uh, Other platforms that are out there that are less. And sometimes, what we're doing is we're migrating folks from a homegrown platform. They've got some asterisk based platform that they put together themselves, and they kind of have gotten to a point where it's getting harder to scale it and manage it, and they're ready to
right.
put something that kind of has more of a wrapper and scale to it. And so the scalability of the SkySwitch platform has certainly been um, one of its main attributes that people appreciate, and of course that's rooted in your platform.
Yeah, that's great because so we talked about kind of the MSPs or others adopting it to build a practice around it, but you guys have also sounds like been a next step for, and that is a very large community of the people who've done Asterisk or some other type of open source or even, some other more limited products that are out there in the market, to kind of build their own, and you give them a nice, and that's like, to me, the example I often use is it many times those become spinning plates, right? The guy that's spinning so many plates on the sticks or
Right.
whatever, right? They get to a size where it's just not really, it becomes much more complicated to continue to scale those. So that sounds like that's a market that you guys address also.
Yeah, or they built it, 24 years ago, and they built it for themselves, and the
Right,
people who built it are ready to retire, and they haven't written it all down over the years. So
right,
the ability to pass that knowledge on is limited because they weren't building it with the intent of making it available for lots of other people, which we were. And so
right.
our ability to support, excuse me, is often the reason why someone needs to make the transition. It's a risk deferment issue on the, risk
Sure.
mitigation strategy,
Yeah, absolutely.
part of the partner. And it's quite natural. If you were a PBX dealer and you had 1,000 customers or 500 customers, whatever you had, and you decide that you want to offer them a migration path to a cloud-based solution, and you decide to do that with SkySwitch, the work we had to do to support that partner, which was a lot of the early partners, um,
Hmm.
very similar to the work we would do to support someone porting from a different cloud-based platform. So the skill set from a services standpoint, from a planning standpoint within our organization is quite reusable in those two environments.
Right. No, that's good. That's great insight. So, with the NetSapiens platform, we pride ourselves on kind of the ability to be flexible to, build it in the image that you want and customize. How important is that to kind of your audience and the markets that you serve, that ability to customize and the flexibility of the platform?
Well, I talked about the integrations, right? And um, there's a lot of impressive software companies out there that uh,
Hmm.
my partners want to be able to integrate with, right? They're
Hmm.
in the healthcare vertical and they want to integrate to Epic, or they're in, a property management vertical and they want to integrate to the solution that their particular
Right.
customer has chosen. And so there's many of them, and so the API flexibility has been important, really important.
Right. Yeah, I think, whatever industry and you're in, I always think people kind of adopt the view of the world where maybe you're more the center of it. And for a long
Right.
time I've recognized that, we aren't generally the conserver of the company's, key data. It's in their CRM, it's in an ERP, it's in one of those vertical applications. So it's important for people like you and I to be able to connect into those, to be able to store insights in there if they want to leverage the data that's in there, so a customer can be greeted with a friendly greeting by name based on the number that pops up on the phone and things like that. That's what those integrations allow, your partners to do. The API story is a very important part about that. And I know, besides the kind of built in the box things that we do from a NetSapiens platform perspective, you guys have spent a lot of time yourselves using our APIs to develop those types of integrations and applications on your own. Isn't that correct?
We do. Absolutely
Yeah,
correct.
cool. Um, it's just as Chief Revenue Officer, kind of from the view from your desk and your role, which I know a lot of times is not as a desk, it's out with your customers in the field. What are some of the key principles that you've kind of uncovered in your career that really drive sustainable growth?
Well, I think there's a few, when I think about the numbers, which I do a
Mhm.
fair bit of the time, right? I think
Right.
about taking care of the customers I have first, so they stay with me, right?
Mhm.
And then I think about growing the customers I have. In the case of SkySwitch, it's enabling their growth by supporting their sales and marketing activity, supporting them some cross-selling, creating some cross-selling opportunities for them. And then third, it's about going after new customers, right? So it's, preserve the business you have, grow the business you already have, and then go capture more business. And three very distinct sales motions, right? Uh,
Right.
you know, a lot of the energy of of marketing and sales in a lot of B2B companies, they focus almost exclusively on the new logo capture, right?
Hmm.
Which is critical, right? That's new fuel, right? That's new sources of opportunity. But when you get to have as large a base as we do, that cross-selling and upselling
Sure.
opportunity is is the bigger lever, actually. I
Hmm.
keep if I keep me, so we have an advisory council. That's why we have several of them, right, for different segments of our business. And if I keep listening and keep learning what they see as their adjacent opportunities, generally accommodating them whenever I can, that's the best recipe. I've learned over the years that trying to get partners to do something different than they're intending to do because of your idea is much harder than
Right.
participating with the partner in whatever motion they have planned or underway. If you can participate in that, that's you're swimming with the current as opposed to
Sure.
trying to get them to evolve their business plan the way you'd like them to. So, um, a lot of my energy is just understanding how they see the market. And when I'm in the field, that's my main goal.
Hmm. And you probably, though, still have to spend a fair bit of time to coach even your existing partners on the preserve your revenue and grow your revenue from your existing base of accounts too, right? So that keeping the three legs on the stool is something your team probably spends a fair amount of time coaching
We
them
do.
on.
It's really an extended part of my own sales organization, right? It's our channel to market effectively.
Hmm.
And so we work hard to be able to give them good data analytics that say, here's where there's additional opportunity for you. Um, and
Hmm.
and here's how we can help you. So
Right. Goes back to that benchmarking you talked about before.
it does. And you can data sets you free, I sometimes say, right? A customer tells you, or a partner tells you, yeah, we're doing that. Like, doesn't seem to be working as well as it is with some others. Let's figure out what they're doing
Right.
different. Um, Sometimes, you've got 8% attach rate of a certain capability, and you're thinking, that's great. That's 8% I didn't have before. And then you come along and you realize your three neighbors have 25% attach rate. Oh, what am I doing wrong? So
Sure.
that's where we try to kind of help.
Right. Well, most of the people that are your actual partners, most of them are entrepreneurs, owners, founders. They have, people, they have a fair amount of pride in their business. So I'm sure the benchmarking really
Yeah.
helps to, kind of, oh, okay. I want to be on top of that stack rank of what you just presented to me.
Yeah, they're the experts and they know their business and they know what's possible and what's not. But sometimes just exposing them a little bit more helps open their thinking. So
Right. Yeah, good. All right, so let's open it up for questions. I appreciate the questions so far, and I've got to just do a little bit here. I'm going to also just see if we have any questions from the audience currently. I've got a couple more here. Here's one. What's one lesson or insight that's been like most important in your career? If you've got a couple of them, you can share a couple of them as well if you like.
uh that's a good question. Boiling it down, I am gonna write a book when I retire, I think. I have lots of little sales sales stories to tell. But look, I think I just covered the biggest one, right? Which is, listen to your customers.
Right,
I think that's probably the thing that has served me best. Some people in sales are just a lot more naturally charming than I am.
right,
They're better looking, they're better golfers, they're better with a wine list, they're, better
right,
at navigating a menu at dinner. I always felt like if I just go in and have a genuine conversation about the business and I learn from the customer about how he's thinking about his business, what challenges he has, usually, if I've spoken to enough other customers, I have something valuable
sure.
to bring back, and then they want to spend more time with me, and our partnership improves. And so that's what served me best personally. I'm kind of a techie at heart, and I like
Mhm.
getting into the both the technical and the business details that
Sure.
intersection.
Yeah, the analytics. It's funny because funny you'd say that about the book because growing up, my dad, if I started asking him too many questions, would always give me the, "Are you writing a book? Leave my chapter out." So yes, we're so
Yeah, and I've
we've
had a
all
few
thought,
customers push back over the years, say, geez, that's a lot of questions. Uh,
yes,
but
yes, but that's I
I
always
think,
find information is important. So asking a lot of questions is good.
my wife gives me a hard time because like I'll be at a little league game or a cocktail party or barbecue or something, and I'll meet someone new, and they're a dentist, and
Mhm.
I say, tell me about your strategy. Like I'm puzzled that my insurance company will pay for me to have my teeth cleaned twice a year, and yet a lot of dental clinics are scheduling 8 months out, 9 months out. They're leaving opportunity on the table. Why not open longer? Why not have the hygienist who works at night? You know, and she's like, "Will you give the guy a break? He doesn't want to talk about work, but they do. People like, especially
Right?
entrepreneurial people, they like talking about their business.
Sure.
So yeah, I think I found the right career because I just like talking business with people.
I love that. Okay. Well, for our audience, I've put up on the screen there, find out more if you want to find out more about Crescendo and the NetSapiens platform for service providers, our URLs there. And if you want to find out more about Brian and more on SkySwitch and this a great white label program they have for technology providers and companies that are interested in it, there's more information there. So, Brian, I want to thank you for joining me today. Uh, Been a great conversation. I appreciate it. Appreciate finding out more about SkySwitch and your offerings and the BCM1 family of companies in our audience and getting your insights. It's been a pleasure talking to you. So thank you.
Likewise, John. Thanks for having me.
Thanks.